Run all of their life it, man would have die fit. A rich man I spend every dime fit. Me girl you are the center of attraction, yes me want to love you. The body there you a girl it fast on up so. And everywhere you walk man want to love you. Want touch you all half a like that fi rush you. A class the body they turn up so. Generally you walk atmosphere burn up so. And when you touch the street boys want to touch you. The body there you got me call dog a rush you. Girl your body good like gold. No man want fi a pan fi all. So them really want to take control and give you everything what them want. Girl, wanna tell you say your body hot. Them love the shape and the figure where you really got. Them want to take you in a foreign all for the yacht. Say them look for your wine and your cheese cat. Direct and you make them body feel hot. Man a bet and a swear for your cheese spot. Man a pray and a ball of Jesus. Then the have a shot and sexy and you know it. And the way you bite a lot don't shake. Yeah man, bust man, shut man wake. All the pass up on the pulpit a bridge. Lion just the gun and you wanna be center of attraction. Yes, me man, me love you. The body where you and everywhere you walk, man, want to love you and touch you all half a like that, fi rush you. A class, the body they turn up so. Generally you walk atmosphere burn up so. And when you touch the street boys want to touch you. The body there you got me call dog a rush you. You love sweet life you a live. Go tell your enemy, go tell all your friends. Every man a call, every man a look a wine. Every man want to pay a bill same time. Come out, come out, come out. Make we have a talk, make we have a rough arm. Me tell about the blouse and the skirt. How your sex is so sweet, I feel so. Girl, you are the center of attraction. Yes, me want to love you. The body there you a girl, it fast on up so. And everywhere you walk, man, want to love you and touch you all half a like that, fi rush you. A class, the body they turn up so. Generally you walk atmosphere run up so. And when you touch the street boys want to touch you. The body there you got me call you are the center of attraction. Yes, all eyes on you. The look you a yard full of crazy like you. Creme de la capa cream, every man want you. You give him a one touch, you live like photo. Him no stop, watch no stop, chill back at you. Man end up mad stiff jacket a Bellevue. That two yards a heat, claim your body fire. Man me body fat up, a human desire. You're glowing like the sun on the hourglass. Center of attraction, your man now pass. Man I walk and stop, still a make a job. Sexy pretty, and this smoke, see the neighbor.
Peace and good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Yananomics podcast. I am your host, Empress Ayana. Welcome, Zakari. Tonight's workshop is tell the people, please.
Get out. Get out of the matrix. Freedom is closer than you think.
I'm having a little bit of a hard time hearing you.
Oh, I said the talk. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's a little bit. Yeah, a little better.
A little better. Wow, I don't know what's going on, but let's.
Okay, there you go. That's good.
All right. No, the title of today's presentation is "Get Out." Freedom is closer than you think. Get out of the matrix.
Yes, I'm so excited about this workshop. I mean, you really came and did your thing the last time, and I was loving it. It was just like the vibe was right, the information is correct, and we need it. Like it's imperative. Before we get into it, I just wanted to tell the people that the song you were listening to is I Am Meds. It's called Center of Attraction. Now that is one of our urban influencer artists. So do check it out. That's IYAHMEDZ Center of Attraction. If you are an artist and you would like for your music to be played and to get more exposure in general, do hit me up and let me get you connected to the Urban Influencers platform. Yes. So, Zakari, please tell the people a little bit about yourself, please.
Zakari L, Marsh American. I'm a farmer these days. In this life, past life, I've been everything from a basketball player to a revolutionary sort of community activist, party throwing. I just have done a lot of things, but most recently in the past decade or so, I've put a lot of emphasis on off-grid living, farming, ways to free yourself from this what people call the matrix and what people call, the government, the system, so to speak. So, again, like I said last time, I could go on and on about myself and things that I've done and who I am, but I like to, get started with whatever we need to talk about today as soon as possible.
All right, let's do it then. Oh, you have to hit share so that I can add your Oh, are you going to talk first?
Um, I'll share and then come over.
Okay, just so I could put it up there and you can just talk and express yourself as freely as you like. But I have to physically do it on my end. So when you're ready, I'm here for you. Okay, I'm out of here.
Appreciate it. Go ahead and just talk it up a little bit. All right, share screen. All right. All right. So, welcome everybody. Appreciate everybody for, anybody that is tuning in now, anybody that tunes in later. We appreciate it. Thanks to the Yananomics podcast for having me on 2 times, and I appreciate that. Give me a chance to talk about some of the things that are important to me, and one of those things is really is for our people to get out, to try to get out of the matrix, to try to get out of the system that's really closing in hard and fast on people. And what has happened since really the pandemic has hit, it has really sort of sped up what has been taking place for a long time now, and what we call basically the colonization of our people, the people. And but before we go into some of that, just really quickly, we'll talk about like what's going on right now, what people are talking about in the mainstream in that world, and how that affects us today emotionally and in the physical world. So we hear a lot about Ukraine versus Russia. We hear a lot about and see and feel the high gas prices, something that people call inflation, food shortages of whatever, whether that be baby formula and different things that are not being put on the shelves these days. A lot of produce, things just not being able to be shipped out, be grown, companies falling under different things, and then of course the downturn of the stock market and the stock market crash, so to speak. I guess they're not calling it official crash yet. But if you have money in the stocks, if you have Bitcoin or anything like that, you definitely feel the stock market crumbling. So if you take all of that and look at it a lot, and what happens with the mainstream media and the news is we don't know what's really going on. So people talk about this stuff all day, political turmoil, this president versus that, this party versus that, it's the Democrats' fault, it's the Republicans' fault. But the truth is, none of us are connected enough to know exactly what's going on with any of this stuff and how it affects us outside of just breaking us, financially. Ukraine versus Russia, is that causing the high gas prices? Is that causing inflation?
I'm sorry. I
Can't hear
hate
me?
to interrupt your presentation, but when you move back or turn your face from the camera, from the computer, even for a second, like the minute you go like this or like this, just a little bit, it makes your voice not being able to hear it as well. But when you're sitting like closer to the computer, I can hear you really good.
You can see
Like
me?
straight like this. Yeah, I can see you good. It's just about the volume and
All
like
right.
when you write up on the computer, I can hear you good.
When I turn left or right, it goes up.
Anything, or even if when you sit back just like that, just you know what I'm saying, like natural movements,
Yeah.
you know.
All right. All right.
Okay. Yeah,
All right.
so if
Let's try
you can
this.
go back to, yes, let's try again.
All right. All right.
And
Uh-huh.
Screen share so I can add you when you're ready.
All right, the screen's not sharing. What? I can't see nothing. All right, hold on. Oh, I lost my presentation.
Take your time.
All right. Now, all right.
There we go.
All right. How's that? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you great right now.
All right. Awesome. So all of these, all of these things that are happening right now, somehow, maybe with the exception of the Ukraine versus Russia thing, because nobody knows really what's going on. There's so much. We're not connected enough. I've got certain research that I've done that shows me a lot of stuff about that. But everything else, high gas prices, inflation, food shortages, and stock market crashes, people feel the effects right now. People have felt the effects of the pandemic for the past 2 years. And it is a crunch. And people trying to get out of this crunch. Students are trying to get out of student loans. People are trying to get out of debt, car notes, mortgages, different things. So it's a big crunch. And what's really going on is the European colonization of America's oligarchy and a lot of miseducation about what's really going on. And what sorry, what what I want to talk about a little bit today, because I changed the direction of this presentation sort of last minute because I think it's important. Last time I was here, we talked about how to get off the grid, and I'll talk briefly about that just to do a recap. But for anybody that is listening now or listening later, go back and revisit the podcast that we did earlier. It was done on October 12th, 2021. And you can find that at the Yananomics podcast.com or at the YouTube channel and anywhere else on in the Facebook Yananomics podcast group as well, I believe. And go check that out because we touch on a lot of ways to physically get yourself prepared for what's happening now, what's going on, and what will be happening to us more rapidly in the future as we see the collapse of the system and so on and so forth going on right in front of us. So, but what I will do is talk a little bit about what we talked about, which is having your own water source. Because if you want to be free, you need your own source of water. And water's totally free because it falls from the sky in the form of rain. And if you catch that water, you'll be able to at least survive in that way with water. And there's, like I said, in that video we did last time, we talk about exactly how to do that. And we're talking about also you need to grow your own food. And in order to grow your own food, you're gonna need water and you're gonna need land. So those are two things that you want to focus on, two of the four things that you want to focus on for survival during any type of collapse, any type of fall of the system. We also talked about downsizing, downgrading, or downsizing your living expenses. Some people go totally, if you got cash, if you do have money saved up, you can spend 25, 30, 40, $50,000 on a small home, on a piece of property that you may own, family may have, and then you have no rent, no mortgage, and that you can start to develop a sense of freedom, a sense of getting out of the matrix. So again, this is called Get Out Freedom is closer than you think. And right now, I'm explaining how you can physically just remove yourself from the stresses of the 9 to 5 grind and what it takes to stay on top of all of the bills that are coming in that you make for yourself, trying to be involved to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak, but to just survive in today's society. And we want to try to, and which doesn't allow us to be free. So what we want to try to do is alleviate and eliminate the things that keep you trapped into the matrix, which would be water bills, your house rent, mortgage, your food consumption, and your power consumption. How much electricity, gas, oil, things like that do you consume on a regular basis to heat and cool your home, to cook your meals, to run all of your electrical appliances and gadgets and things of that nature. And those bills typically combine, depending on where you live, from anywhere from 2,000 to $4,000 or $5,000, how big your house is and how big your family is. So if you add that up, think about how many hours you have to be at your job or at your computer if you work from home, away from your family, away from the people you love, away from the things that you desire to accomplish in life, just to pay those bills. Not And that doesn't include the tons and tons of other things like the gas that you have to put in your vehicle. um Man, it's everything you have to pay for, to say the least, and then all of the luxuries that we like to enjoy as well, added on to the necessities. When you add all that up, that's what's really keeping you trapped in your 9 to 5 grind and trapped into your matrix. Now, I did have some other things that make up the matrix listed. I think I skipped that slide, but um other things that keep us trapped are what we pay attention to, right? In the news. If you get all your news and you stay focused on what's going on in the celebrity gossip world, then your sort of mind is trapped into the matrix, and you need to get out of that and get into the real world, study, learn about some things, and stay off of that. Social media is sort of bad in that way because it keeps you trapped. It keeps your emotions. What happened in Buffalo, shootings over here, the shortages of food, this, that, and the third. It gets really it gets into your psyche, and you start to believe a lot of what's being shown to you on the television slash computer news outlets, social media outlets. So we want to get out of the matrix in that way as well, because you'll do yourself and your family a great service by not focusing on what these people have sort of presented to you. So we touched a lot on that in the last presentation, but I wanted to go into that a little bit because towards the end of that presentation, we started to talk about us as a people and the freedom that other peoples enjoy, that the so-called blacks do not have, and the things that we complain about, that at this point we help perpetuate by continuing to be trapped into the matrix, into the miseducation of the people. And in doing so, we're not able to see some of the realities that are in front of us, that would also help us get out of the matrix, so to speak, get out of the system, so to speak. And uh we got into talking about us as indigenous people, and that's really important for what I'm about to talk about, because I'm not going to try to prove to anybody with the facts and the different things that show where we come from, where our ancestors who were in the Americas for centuries and centuries, thousands of years prior to any European colonists, stepping foot over here and placing these artificial constraints on the people by the, you know, using the United States and the United States jurisdiction, uh, claiming that it's a nation when it is not. So the indigenous status, which is not necessarily a political status, you still need a nationality, but I won't get into that. But a lot of people are coming into the realization that we were here before the colonists, before Columbus, before the Europeans, before anybody who now is trying to tell you that this place belongs to them. This land, the Americas, the United States is a political jurisdiction. It does not exist anywhere except on paper because this land is America. And these are the Americas, North, South, Central, and the adjoining islands. And the people who call themselves Black today are have been miseducated into believing that this place was occupied by people that they call Native Americans and that our ancestors were somewhere in a place today called Africa. And that um, is not entirely true. And there's a lot of proof and evidence to talk that talks about that. That's not necessarily what I'm going to talk about, but the American Indian, which is a misnomer, um, a fraud, is if you look up pictures of that, you'll see people that look like all the people in your family. And then when you talk to grandma, great grandma, so on and so forth, they let you know that they are part of some type of tribe, some type of original peoples here. And in order for us to start to begin to get it free mentally, we have to know that because in that knowledge and with that knowledge that we were here, that our people, whatever they were called at the time, were here before colonial occupation, which makes you gives you more claim to the land and birthrights that need to be honored. And this type of freedom is a different type of freedom because a lot of paper terrorism has been done on the people through contracts, you know, birth certificates and all of that talk that again I won't get into all of that because I want to share something that's important and we can talk if there is anybody tuning in, if they have questions or if you have questions. Um, so let me try to get out of here real quick. Go here. So it's very it's a very interesting topic when you start talking to people about, let's say, what do you call that? Reparations and rights, civil rights, things, human rights. Why aren't the so-called blacks being treated like other, even dark-skinned people? So there's dark-skinned people who come here, people with skin tones that are lighter, darker than mine, but will be considered black if they were just born here and had a birth certificate and started claiming the status of black. So there are people who have nationalities that come over here who get different treatment than the so-called blacks who are here, right? And there's a reason for that. And that is the fact that they have a nationality and they know they have claimed their political status. So that gives them a lot more freedom because that's the topic today. Getting out of the matrix, freedom is closer than you think. This United Nations Declaration of Rights of on the rights of indigenous people is a document that was adopted by the United Nations, and whether you understand the fraud of that organization and that political body or not, the United States and the government of the United States, the people who run the United States are bound to uphold treaties, declarations, laws, or whatever is passed that does get passed and adopted by the United Nations. So with this document, along with the Declaration on the Rights of of human rights, along with the Constitution, along with the treaties, the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, and all of these other documents that we attach to the paperwork that we file with these people to let them know who we are. This is another document, but I want to read some of the articles to let you know that this document right here alone is trying to free the so-called blacks right here in the United States, but we don't even know about it. It's not necessarily taught, obviously, in schools, and the fact that we don't identify as indigenous people doesn't even allow us to take in what is being presented in the form of this document as, to me, a form of reparations right here if we just come together and understand who we really are. So I'm going to go through sort of rapidly the first 13 articles, and I'll stop at the ones that sort of kind of address what I'm talking about more so. So, Article 1, Indigenous peoples have the right to full enjoyment as a collective or as individuals of all human rights and fundamental freedoms as recognized in the Charter of the United Nations, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and international human rights laws. So, right there, it's letting you know, just as Indigenous peoples, you're supposed to be now, you can claim human rights violations, international human rights law violations, and any other violations that are out there internationally on humans than people who have a political status. Indigenous peoples and individuals are free and equal to all other peoples and individuals and have the right to be free from any kind of discrimination in the exercise of their rights, in particular that based on their indigenous origin or identity. Again, discrimination, freedom, all of that is right in this article. Um, and it is a treaty, so to speak, adopted by the United Nations, which the United States is bound to recognize. Article 3, one of the very important ones. Indigenous peoples have the right to self-determination. By virtue of their right, they freely determine their political status and freely pursue their economic, social, and cultural development. Again, freedom is always in these articles because it's trying to set you free. Article 4, Indigenous peoples in exercising their right to self-determination have the right to autonomy or self-government in matters relating to their internal and local affairs, as well as ways and means for financing their autonomous functions. You have the right to do your own thing. Anywhere you are, create your own government, self govern, do not infringe on the rights of others while you do that, and you should be protected by this as well. But you need to be human, and black is not human. Black is a color. It does not identify you as human, and you're gonna injure yourself over and over and over again, identifying as a color and not understanding, at least at the very um, surface level, that you come from a people who were here, who have cultural history, who were not slaves, who, if anything, were captured and prisoners of war, forced to work. But slave is not your beginning, and we need to know that. Article 5, Indigenous peoples have the right to maintain and strengthen their distinct political, legal, again, they're distinct, which means separate from anything anybody else is doing. If you and your people who claim to be this tribe, this group, you can have distinct political, legal, economic, social, and cultural institutions, schools, and all of that while retaining their right to participate fully, if they so choose, in the political, economic, social, and cultural life of the state capital. Right? So that's just letting you know that indigenous people can have their own land, growing what you want to grow, your indigenous medicines, cultural, social groups, practices, right? Holidays, courtrooms, way to deal with crime, way to deal with anything inside your political structure. which makes you a free people. This is giving you, no, protecting that right, declaring that that right exists. It's not just these articles, treaties, constitutions don't give rights. They sort of protect them, and they state that you have that. And this document shows that we are going to recognize that. Article 6, the ever so important article, which is the smallest because it is the most important and it's straight to the point. Every indigenous individual has the right to a nationality. Why would that be put into a document like this? Because our people have been stripped of their nationality. Our people and other people, but our people here have been stripped of their nationality. So if you ask someone who considers themselves to be black, what is your nationality? They really have no answer for that. If you ask them what race they are, they might say black. But we don't belong to a nation. Most of we just don't know what that means. There's no flag that we can hold up to represent us. Um, we have some people who know their sort of Caribbean roots, and then they have, Jamaican and Trinidad and all of these, and they do have flags and they do have nationality. A lot of those nations are still under the colonization of the Queen. They know it, but to a certain degree, they have a little bit more understanding of what nationality is and how to unite under nationality. So when there's a Jamaican restaurant, you go inside, there's Jamaican people at the Jamaican restaurant, at the Jamaican festival, at the Jamaican this, and then at the Caribbean thing, you have all of them. So there's a unity just in nationality that so-called blacks don't have, and that is a hindrance to freedom, because we're saying why can't we unite? But you can't unite under color, because when you unite under color, it separates, because you have all different shades, and then within that you have all different kinds of religious beliefs, and then within that you have all kinds of social and cultural differences. So there's no unity there, and it's just a lot of separation. So every indigenous individual has a right to nationality. So study nationality. Nationality is determines your political status. So over here, this is the United States, and people from France from over here, they let the United States know that I'm a French citizen, a French national, and that determines right there what the United States can and can't do to this individual. Well, with the so-called blacks, you become ward of the state. You become Your children are wards of the state because you are stateless and you have no nationality. They don't know who you are, so they assume jurisdiction over you, your body, and everything because you haven't claimed who you are. I digress. Indigenous individuals have the right to life, physical and mental integrity, liberty, and security of person. Indigenous peoples have the collective right to live in freedom, peace, and security as distinct peoples and shall not be subjected to any act of genocide or any other act of violence, including forcibly removing children of the group to another group, which we know is something that happens to our families. Forcibly removing the children of the group to another group through adoption, through state kidnapping of children. This protects you from that, but you got to know who you are in order to get these protections, and you got to study, get out of the matrix, stop focusing on the stuff that they tell you, get out and study, learn something. Freedom is right here for us. Indigenous people and individuals have the right to be subjected, not to be subjected to forced assimilation or destruction of their culture. Again, who does that sound like? That sounds like our people. They saying indigenous people, but they really want to say the black people, the people who call themselves black. Please listen to this. Please read this and understand that this is for you. You are the original people of the planet. There is no way that you are not indigenous to the Americas, considering that the continents were all together. They split up. You mean only dark people went that way? It's not how it happened. States shall provide effective mechanisms for prevention of and redress for. This is reparations, people. States shall provide effective mechanisms for prevention of and redress for any action which has the aim or effect of depriving them of their integrity as distinct peoples or of their cultural values or ethnic identities. So if they are supposed to provide you with resources just because you're indigenous and they messed it up. Any action which has the aim or effect of disposing them off their lands, territories, or resources. We know that's going on as well. Gentrification, everything. Any form or forced population transfer, which has the aim or effect of violating or undermining any of their rights. Taking people, moving them here, moving them there, even during Katrina, different things. This is all for you. Any form of forced assimilation or integration, any form of propaganda designed to promote or incite racial or ethnic discrimination directed against them. So any of these things that state is supposed to provide redress for, it's supposed to help you get resources to help you get out of this stuff. Article 9, indigenous peoples and individuals have the right to belong to an indigenous community or nation. Indigenous peoples, again, and peoples and individuals. So the peoples, the groups, and the individuals of those groups have the right to belong to an indigenous community or nation in accordance with the traditions and customs of the community or nation concerned. No discrimination of any kind may arise from the exercise of such right. Build your communities, learn how to protect yourself, not necessarily through, guns and that type of protection, but on paper. And maybe that'll be the next workshop. We'll go over in detail how to do that and or how that can be done, because there's lots of ways and people try to act like and charge you a whole lot of money for some paperwork that you can really do on your own. Some stuff, it's not that hard. It's not as hard as people think or as difficult. And just to let them know who you are and how you want to proceed moving forward with them from a distance, even though you may participate from time to time in the political stuff that's going on, to make sure that your rights are not being infringed upon. Article 10. Indigenous people shall not be forcibly removed from their lands or territories. No relocation shall take place without the free, prior, and informed consent of the indigenous people, and after agreement on just and fair compensation, and where possible, with the option of return. Article 11. Indigenous peoples have the right to practice and revitalize. So practice and revitalize their cultural traditions and customs. This includes the right to maintain, protect, and develop the past, present, and future manifestations of their culture, such as archaeological, historical artifacts, design, ceremonies, technologies, visual and performing arts, and literature. That's number one. States shall provide redress through effective mechanisms which may include restitution, reparation, developed in conjunction with indigenous peoples with respect to their cultural, intellectual, religious, and spiritual property taken without their free, prior, and informed consent or in violation of their laws, traditions, and customs. So, everything has to be done with respect to their intellectual, religious, and spiritual property, right? Because you have freedom of religion, and whatever you want to practice within that is protected. 12. Indigenous peoples have the right to manifest, practice, develop, and teach their spiritual and religious traditions. So, whatever that means, it's protected. Indigenous peoples have the right to manifest, practice, develop, and teach their spiritual and religious traditions, customs, and ceremonies. The right to maintain, protect, and have access and privacy to their religious and cultural sites. The rights to the use and control of their ceremonial objects, and the rights to the repatriation of their human remains. And states shall seek to enable the access and or repatriation of ceremonial objects and human remains, and all of that stuff. And then in the 13th article, I wanted to get that one. I was going to stop at 12, but indigenous peoples have the right to revitalize, use, develop, and transmit to future generations their histories, languages, oral traditions, philosophies, writing systems, literatures, and to designate and retain their own names for communities, places, and persons. What? You are supposed to have your own everything, your own writing systems, languages, oral traditions, histories to pass down to your children. Stop passing down the stuff that was passed to you by your colonial oppressors. You have the right to create your own schools, to do this, to create your own religious institutions, your own ceremonies, to pass these things down. But we, the adults, the sort of future elders, I'm an elder, I guess now, to learn these things so we can start changing the minds of our youth so they understand that they are not slaves. They're colonized, but they're not less than. They are the indigenous people whose cultures and practices are the parent of the cultural practices of the colonial people who really didn't have a culture to begin with. And Article number 2 from Article 13, states shall take effective measures to ensure that this right is protected and also ensure that indigenous peoples can understand and be understood in political, legal, and administrative proceedings where necessary through the provision of interpretation or by other appropriate means. But going back to the first one, because I did want to touch on the end of it too, where you see retain their own names for communities, places, and persons. So if we when we have property, you can name your streets, even if the street sign says Johnson Street. You can your people can say no, this is this neighborhood, and everybody in that community lives by that. And then you do the political, because you should be able to just go put the sign out, but you go through the political channels and you use documents like this to say we're putting up a sign that also says um indigenous way, and this is what we call it in our documents, and this is needs to be recognized within your system that we're going this is what we do. And when we need to use Johnson Street or whatever, we will, to communicate with those people, but this is indigenous way, and we have a whole community of people who live here who understand that this is what it is. um And 14 is about education, and there's actually 46 of these, and they go on and on and on to give you and show you how you can get free from the matrix in a certain aspect, of your life. So again, we talked about how to free yourself physically from the physical constraints of, you know what, I totally depend on the system to teach my children, to provide food in the grocery stores, um, to provide water, and to provide shelter. I'm totally dependent on that. That's what most people are. So when there are atrocities and things done to them that they don't like, they don't have a course for redress. They don't have a they don't have a way to say no, because you're trapped being reliant on the system for all of your needs. So we talked about that. And then from a political standpoint, you're trapped by claiming statuses that aren't really true, that are fraud, not being educated about the fraud that has been done to you, and not knowing where you can get redress for those frauds and how to get remedy in a corrupt colonial system, because everything I just spilled out from that document can be violated by the powers that be. And it's not that I don't understand that and I'm just saying if you do this then you'll be good. I'm saying you need to learn these things, teach it to the children, teach it to the communities, come together, band together, determine who you are, let these people know who you are, and then start to exercise who you are as a community. And it sounds, well, to me, it sounds simple, but to most people, I think it can sound like a daunting task. So I know on our last podcast that I did, we touched a little bit on that. We touched a little bit on how you yourself were able to, maneuver through, and when you did learn who you were and how these people were getting over on you, you start to exercise and get to see how you are more free just from knowing this information. So if there aren't, that's it for that part in today's sort of presentation. And if there are any questions or comments or anything you want to talk about, we'll do
Yeah. So Rashid says this is great info. Articles 4 and 5 are very interesting and all about the rights we have. Oh, actually, I can just put that up real quick. But I know I got plenty to say about what you had to say. Y'all thought y'all was coming to learn about how to grow some food again. And really, okay. And really, what you're teaching the people is about, like you say, knowing who you are, claiming your truth, and, knowing how to exercise the power in knowing who you are. And, I'm so glad you talked about this because I think people think that I be crazy. Because like I'm so serious about protecting my rights. I'm so serious about exercising my rights. I go in the court and give them hell because you're not going to just tell me what to do, how to do it, and all this other stuff. And it's based off of when I began to learn more about jurisdiction, more about nationality, more about, because I'm like, damn, like I know we're the greatest. Like everything that exists now would never be able to be without us. So, like, why are things? I was just so perplexed by my position in the world and the messaging that I was getting about who I was and different things like that. So, for me, I started to do more research and things like that because I was looking for more how to gain more power over the self. And that's when I started to learn about propria persona. I started learning about, how to stand on your square. I started learning about a multitude of different things that are not common. I took my son, I stepped out on a limb and took my son from out of the a school system and began homeschooling because I try to tell people all the time, like, I feel like we send our children into the belly of the beast every day. Like you literally are giving them to the people who hate you. Like, and even if consciously the people who are caring for your children are not aware, it doesn't matter. It's still taking place because it's a part of who they are. I also try to tell people that it's natural to create a society that's going to work best for your people. If I'm going to create a society, guess what? It's going to work best for people that look like me. Point blank, period. That's just natural. This world that we live in currently, this paradigm that we've been given, is purposeful. It is necessary to keep us in our place, to keep us from knowing who we are and from even looking for the information. It's like, don't you ain't nobody. Like, what is there to look for? You ain't shit. So, I knew better than that. So that's why I'm like, no, 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 no. I watch people around me just go with what these folks are saying. And I'm just like, wait a minute. Like, this is not right. So I just wanted to show y'all how I be doing my research. So this is um Noble Drew Ali's was written in originally in the 1920s, but truth about your birthrights, right? Okay, so if y'all want these books are created by RV Bay Publications. Um, Then here we have how to study, conscious state of mind precepts. You know,
Okay.
you need to
Wisdom.
know like who you are. Are you in denial of your ancestry? Master slave relationship. You know, because I think a lot of time we really do believe that our whole life and how we came to be here is like through slavery, which I never related to that like that either. It just didn't feel right to me. Um and then I started learning about Pangea, which is what the earth was prior to the breakage and the oceans filling in and all these things. I started learning about that. So I'm like, oh shoot, like we were everywhere from the beginning. And Caucasians, I don't even call them white people because white is a status. That is not a race. It is not any of that. It is a status that belonged to us, point blank, period. So originally, and they have gone out of their way to take our identity and switch the truth of who we are and apply it to themselves. So that's a real thing. And a lot of people don't realize, even when we talk about Illuminati and all of these things, oh, this is your stuff. This is all you, like point blank period. How people use spiritual and physical weaponry is whatever they do with it, you know, how they use it, but that's all us. You know, at the end of the day, I could talk about this type of stuff all day, like literally all day, because I have seen with my own two eyes, by fighting or even ignoring the court system. Sometimes I had to let them know who I was, and they're going to fight you. They're going to be like, well, what about jurisdiction? You know, because they want you to prove that you know who you are. And, you know, the more you engage with it, the more they know you don't know who you are, you know, and I'm just like mind blown because we have a right to come here, as those articles stated, as all that information stated, we have a right to come here and be as we are. We have a right to be autonomous. We have a right to live our lives in the way that we see fit for ourselves. So I do encourage for people to learn more about these things, because this is really, like you said, when if it's to ever go down, if the issues to ever go down and you don't know who you are and you cannot declare a nationality, you are going to be chattel at the end of the day if you don't know, you know, because right now we're just collateral as far as they're concerned. You know, we don't have no real value. When I think about things such as the civil rights era, right? A lot of people get really, really upset when you start talking about the civil rights era, and, you know, because so many people fought for us to be able to go to schools
Yeah.
with
Right.
Caucasians. So, yeah, oh, yeah, like, right? Um, and I believe that integration was actually more harmful than it was helpful, in my opinion. That's where I stand with it. I personally, like you say, you cannot fight if you're fighting, if you're trying to relate to people based off of color. That don't even make sense to do that. And how black is, because when you think about race, like if we even think about the word race, like anytime we think about a race, it's like we're running, we're
Mhm.
trying, it's a competition. And really, that's what the core of this is all about. It's about a competition, and they're trying to win. Point blank, period. They trying to win. They will kill you. They will bomb you. They will drag you. They will abort your babies. And I'm not like, this is not about whether or not people have a right to choose, right? That's not what this is about. This is about what happens when we give them the power and we don't know who we are. You know, it's just so many really atrocious things happening to us in the schools. I took my son out of school because I realized his mind was gone. It was being taken, point blank, period. My son don't even know how to engage with me, his black mother, because he's confused about who he is. Because every time he go there, they tell him one thing. They're engaging him in one way. He come home and he say, he's just disregarding me now, right? I'm just like, whatever, because they said this or they said that. And I think we have to take it seriously. I used to go into that school. I used to advocate for my son. I used to write letters. I used to sit in the classrooms. I used to do so many different things. And guess what? It changed nothing. People talked about what they wanted to be different, the agents of the system, the people that work in the system, the teachers. I said, well, damn, why y'all don't ever speak up about nothing? Why aren't y'all speaking up on behalf of these kids? Because it's not in their best interest. And not only is it not in those people's best interest, they have to survive. They're in survival mode, even in the schools. They all sticking together. Nobody's really talking about nothing. Everybody trying to keep it quiet. Ain't nobody trying to rock the boat too much because they don't want to lose their job. I feel like it's time for people to be ready to lose your job, because what God will do, what the universe will do, is align you with better when you stand for what's right, when you're righteous, really, at the end of the day. And reclaiming our children's minds is something that we have to take seriously. We have to start creating these spaces. As we can see, that's what the universe gave us. They had to write that down in the papers themselves. That's our natural right to come here and do those things, to come here and live a life that is healthy, that is well, that is in alignment with, our truth and where we want to go each and every day. That's our right. And we need to start exercising them. We need to stop being afraid of this system, of Caucasians, of their penal systems and all of these things. And I think it's one thing to be cautious and thoughtful and aware. And it's one thing to just give in, and that's what a lot of us have done. We just don't see a way out. We give up. And then when we do come into contact with a little bit of information, we feel like we got to pay. We're made to feel like we got to pay to even understand who we are. And don't get me wrong, I do believe that if you're the keeper of an information, that it's nothing wrong with, somebody like donating or giving you something for the energy for which you're expending to make sure that they can be free. You should want to pay somebody for that. You pay for all of the other foolishness. That's right, Empress. You pay for everything else. You should want to. Exactly. So this is my co-host, y'all. Yes. And no, seriously, because that's also the core of why I had Empress Zaire in my home. Why I decided the hospital ain't for me. It just ain't for me. And I had a friend who had a baby, and she was very clear about her plan, what she wanted, and her birth plan. And do you think they cared? Nope. They still hung bags of medicine, even though she asked for it not to be there. They still gave her medicine, because even when you go into their hospitals, you are clearly saying, I cannot help myself. I can't help myself. When you call an attorney, you call a lawyer, you get these people to come and represent you, you're telling them, I don't know who I am. I cannot do this on my own. I need help. And sometimes it is necessary for you to get that help, because you gonna really be lost, for real, if you try to go stand and speak on something that you don't have, is not really grounded in you. You know what I mean? You're gonna get eaten up. So I know, like I said, for a fact, with my interactions with the system, that there are ways around a lot of this stuff, but it really comes down to you knowing who you are. When I went into the hospital, and I used to I was just getting my ultrasound and stuff like that. The doctor's like, what they want me to think is something is wrong with me. I'm too old to have a baby and be healthy and do it, because I'm over 40. So they're just, and while this may not be about being black or indigenous or whatever it may be, what I'm saying is that when you engage with these systems, they're ready to beat you upside the head with, going along with what is their truth, what's real for them, what will allow them to have more authority over your power. Point blank, period. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day. So that's why, and so the doctor talk, he got his foot all cocked up on the stool, talking to me like, no, you're not talking to me like we're cool like that, talking about, oh, did you get this test? Did you get that test? He's so comfortable with me, he's not even giving me the common respect to stand in front of me and speak to me like he would anybody else. You know what I'm saying? You got your foot cocked up, you feeling all comfortable,
Yeah.
you feeling all like whatever. Like, no, it's not gonna be none of that. So, I decided not to immunize my daughter. I decided to do a lot of things because why would you even encourage me to give my child immunizations when it's clear and there's so much information out there about the fact that when you breastfeed, you pass along that immunity to your children. Why is nobody talking about that? Like, it's weird, it's really odd, and like this conversation is so expansive, it's so huge, it's so big because we're talking about things that affect every single area of our lives. It's going to affect your school, like your education, your financial life. It's going to, your physical, like everything, your social life, how you engage with one another. It affects everything. And
Mhm.
that was so powerful. I'm so happy because I didn't know, people may
Yeah.
think that I know what
Yeah.
the facilitators are going to come and present on. No, what I know is um, the title, and I know the 1 to 3 sentence description. Yours happened to be, I think, one sentence. So there was no way for me to know exactly what you were going to talk about. But this is an absolute necessary conversation. So I'm so happy that that's what you touched on, because a lot of people are very fearful of speaking about this, because the truth of the matter is, when you start liberating people, when you start helping people to be free, they're watching. Like, point blank, period. They're going to be watching you, and a lot of people are afraid to really step out
Mhm.
in their truth because of that. But I feel like it's worth it. If your children are aware, if you love your children, if you want your grandchildren to be good, you want your great great grandchildren to be good, you are going to stand out in your truth. You're going to look into some of the things that we're talking about because it's absolutely necessary. Now, I know that some people do get concerned, for example, with homeschooling, right? They're like, well, how will I work my job and homeschool? And I thought like a lot like that for a long time. But what I found that when I knew what I wanted and I was brave enough to go get it, the universe aligned it for me. Period. You know what I'm saying? Period. If you're a mom and you are at home and say, you are getting you're getting state assistance or whatever it may be, this is a perfect opportunity for you to start making some of those changes. Don't think that because oh, you are on a system or whatever it may be, that somehow changes who you are. Because just like that paper said, just like that declaration, the article said, you have a right to engage that system when you're ready. You have a right to engage in commerce and business with America when you're ready. And you have a right to do that, but you must know who you are so that when you do make that choice, it's a lot easier to navigate, like, for sure. So I just, like I said, I could talk about this all day. I am in love with this conversation, and I hope that people find it very valuable. Let me see. Both, thank you both for this. Also, Bird's Eye You Marketing says, wait, Empress says, thank you both for this. It's so important to know this information to protect ourselves and our future generations. Great discussion. I couldn't agree more. This was a wonderful discussion. Zakari, listen, please come back on again. I
Yeah.
want you back. Did you have any last words that maybe you wanted to say to the people? And also, like, letting them know like where to reach you and things like that, where they can find you.
Well, I can definitely can't follow up your act. You gave them the real the business. You finished off everything I was talking about. I knew
I can't
it was
hear you. No, no.
uh-uh, come
I didn't hear hardly anything you said.
horrible.
I know. But no, please do say it again because I do want to hear what you were saying.
No, no, no. Horrible.
I know.
I don't
This
know what's
the tech. Okay, I could kind of hear you.
forget it. It's not that important. What I was saying. Thank you. I knew that you would get going on it, and I appreciate you. I'll be back. If people, if you could put it in the chat, somebody could put it in the chat.
Oh no,
But
it's messed up. Is the volume is just acting up? But yes, okay. But I did get the gist of what you were saying. That basically you're gonna come back and we can continue this conversation or even just more information in terms of growing and all these things. I would love for you to definitely like do a part two to the first one that you did.
yeah,
That was really good. That was excellent. I found it to be very helpful because that's where I learned about mineral rights, water rights, mineral rights. I learned about air rights. I learned about a lot of different things. Because was that you that was giving the example of the chickens being scared? I must have listen. I must have listened to or watched something, right? And they were talking about. I think I started looking up. I think I started doing my research and finding out more about the mineral rights, air rights, and all this stuff. And they were talking about how there was this farmer. And because basically at this point in time, the government is trying to claim rights even over the
mhm,
air, over your
yes,
home, everywhere, all the air. They're trying to claim the rights of it. So, this farmer, his chickens kept dying because the planes from the government were going over
yeah,
his farm. And he ended up being able to sue the government because of it, and everything. But I'm just saying, like,
yeah.
I was able to dig into more information about more things because of that very first workshop that you did. And that gave me the knowledge to the fact that we can um, dig wells so long as you have mineral rights and different things like that on your land. Because I, even since then, I found out that Texas, you cannot have mineral rights at all in Texas at
'Cause
all. So there's certain states that will just block you from out of having rights to land you purchased. You purchased with your money. So, it's important too to figure out like where you're gonna live, where are you gonna settle down when it comes to this, and everything. And then wherever you're at, how do you make the best of that? I'm just I'm so passionate about this stuff.
I know.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I just want to be liberated. I just want to be free. I just want to live in my fullest potential. And that's why this podcast exists. This podcast exists because I want to do paradigm shifting. I want for us to know that what we know right now is not all there is to know. There's lots more to know, and we're at the center of what all there is to know because we're the greatest thing and we're worth it. We're worth this platform. We're worth the time. We're worth the energy. And I hope that people found this of great value, even if this is just like a little thing that's touching on something that will spark something later on. That's really what it's all about at the end of the day, sparking something and then helping people along the line if they're already on their journey. So thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Yes, I gotta come out and visit your farm like one day. Yes, I gotta come and visit. And then I would like for you to come on and talk about tiny home living to an extent too. Different ways that people can start getting in the investment game when it comes to that because it doesn't take a whole lot of money to start a business through tiny homes or even just living more freer. Um, yeah, yeah, I would love that. I would love that. Like you got to keep coming back, because like this is can be an ongoing thing. Like I don't want you to think that I already been on there this many times, so I don't know. No, like come
Yeah,
on as many times as you feel like you have something of value to be able to say to the people, please. Like this platform is always here for you.
Thank you.
Yes, and thank everyone for joining us tonight. Zakari, please tell the people where they can link with you.
If they can hear me, they can
Oh
find
yeah, well if you can hear him, I heard you a little bit. Let me see. Okay, I forgot. Let's see. You want to try?
I'm gonna try. Listen,
Okay,
if
you
they,
doing good.
where's my microphone on this thing?
I think that's what it is. You probably need an external mic.
No, I didn't before, but
Oh, I hear you. I hear you good.
oh, something happened. All right. People can catch me on Facebook, Zakari L, Zakari Fahim L, Fahim. You can go to the website More Love Farms, MOORLOVE Farms.com, and More Love Farms Zakari on Instagram. And yeah, that's it. Any one of those
Okay.
places, I respond to Facebook, pretty regularly, and also the website. And we have all kinds of cool products, cool, healthy stuff, and blue light glasses, and we have our our Mix More blender. So it's a small portable blender that we have, and
Hmm.
herbs and all that kind of stuff on the website, as well as for people in South Carolina and Columbia. When we start selling our vegetables, we have that stuff on there as well, and events that we throw. So come check us out. You can always donate on the website as well if you're feeling so gracious to do so.
Yes. So that's morelovefarms.com, y'all. Please do go visit. Show your support and love for Zakari, his family, everything that he has going on. Because he's doing some really amazing things out there. And did you just have an event that passed, or you have an event coming up?
I had an event in March and I had a class that I actually didn't have Sunday, but then I had to do
Okay.
a mini class because people showed up anyway. But so I'll probably be doing another gardening class virtual soon. And I know you always share my stuff, so I appreciate that. You always
Yes.
put it out there. But this will be something that people who don't live here can be a part of. And because I always get that, I did one virtual gardening, I think, and it was successful. So I want to do another one, and we can schedule, and I won't take so long, and I'll be more prepared to have me come on and talk about some of the other things, tiny homes, and a follow up to what we talked about last time.
Hmm. I love it. You did a great job. I mean, I feel like everything you did today was amazing. Like, I know that, you probably didn't feel as prepared as you would have liked to be, but nobody else knows that. You know what I mean? So I feel like, regardless, you did a great job covering the material and everything. So, and that it was necessary and you were straight to the point. So, yeah, I'm with it, y'all. Morelovefarms.com. I definitely want me a pair of those glasses. I think I want to get the baby one too. She probably would love that. So, to protect my eyes from when I'm watching, like I'm on my computer a lot, I'm on my phone
Yeah,
a lot. So, I know it's very helpful when it comes to that. I think you offer some wonderful products. So I definitely will be supporting soon. I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a small business owner, so shit be
trust
kind of
me.
real.
Listen,
But
I get it.
I'm coming because I'm gonna be a millionaire. I claim that. You know what I'm saying? Multi wealthy. Period. You know what I mean? So that's where my head is at. And yeah, morelovefarms.com. And thank you so much, Zakari. Have a wonderful night. Y'all stay with
Thank
me for 2
you.
seconds while we
Appreciate it.
close this up. Thank you, Empress. Peace.
Peace. Appreciate it.
All right. So, y'all. Uh-oh. Wait a minute now. Let's go back here. Oh, no. What's happening? Okay. I got to change it right here. Here we go. So let's take a moment and thank our sponsors for tonight. Um, we have, of course, Mr. Rashidi Lacario, who is a credit repair specialist and is also a licensed real estate agent in New Jersey. Woo, woo, woo. Go Rashidi. He is wonderful at what he does when it comes to the credit repair as well. Now that he does the real estate, and he's looking to get his license in Connecticut and New York. So y'all need to hit him up because he has very special services because he understands the credit repair side of things as well as the home buying side of things. So that's hard to find, y'all. Make sure y'all hit him up. RKT Appraisals, that's Rashidi Lacario. And our next ad sponsor is Mrs. Carol Kelly, who is an educator and entrepreneur. Both her and Rashidi are moderators in the group. She took a little bit of a hiatus, but she's also amazing. I've used her services as well. You can find out more about her on at her website www.theycallmemrskelly.com. And we have a new ad sponsor. Welcome Lisa P. Hinton, who is an entrepreneur and hairstylist. Y'all, she did my hair, y'all. Y'all like my hair. She did such a good job on my hair. I love it. Love this sister. She has such a warm, like personality. Really, really good peoples. Y'all hit her up. She has a lot of wonderful things to offer. She does a lot of things in the community, even some youth related things as well, keeping the youth employed and busy. So hit her up. And her website is, let me move this ticker. Let me move all these tickers here so that y'all can see what we got going. Empress Zaire is tearing up stuff behind me. She's taking full advantage for sure. But anyways, so our next sponsor is me. I am actually a lifestyle elevation specialist. So I just changed my title recently because I'm doing a little bit of rebranding, just a little something, something. So it is now lifestyle elevation specialist. I am the founder for Onyx Restorative Justice. Yananomics is under Onyx Restorative Justice. It is my umbrella organization for everything that I do, which is graphic design. Well, actually, we'll get into that in a minute. But I am passionate about seeing our people live to their divine potential. And our tagline is empowering excellence and community advancement. Oh, and my website is www.orjholisticservices.com. You can go to bodyexcellencebutter.com. You can go to yananomicspodcast.com. It will all bring you to my website. Now, if you are interested in becoming a Yananomics advertising sponsor, hit me up. We have something for everybody. At 125, you can get your gold level. That's 6 months of promotion, guys. 6 months of being highlighted in episodes. 6 episodes. So it may not be 6 months of episodes. However, you know that you're going to be included regularly. So if you have a business, you're a small business owner, big business owner, it doesn't matter. Do hit me up about this because this is how I'm able to keep the Yananomics podcast going, is with your support by purchasing these ad sponsorships and donating, of course. Now, our next workshop, orientation rather, if you're interested in becoming a Yananomics facilitator, is going to be on June 12th. It's a Sunday. We'll be doing that via Zoom. If you're interested, do hit me up and I will send you the link so that you, or this flyer or whatever, but I will be posting this all over. So, but if you do need the information, do let me know and I'll make sure you get it. And so what I do, I am a virtual assistant. I do graphic design. I obviously do Yananomics, and I am a body excellence butter consultant. So I create my own butters. Yeah, I design. Oh, let me see. design my own labels. I don't know if you guys can see that good. And everything. And I wanted to show y'all real quick a little bit. I make butter too for the home. And so I wanted to show y'all solid how amazing this look. It took me no time. No time. This butter is so good, and it helps my skin to be so beautiful. And a lot of people don't know or realize that shea butter is a sunscreen. You know, it's a natural sunscreen, so it's perfect for this weather. It's perfect for this season. Yeah, and I make it with my own two hands, so you should definitely check it out. And that concludes our evening together. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I appreciate you like so much. Please, everyone, do have a wonderful night. Peace.